Hello. I am so excited to be here with you guys. So, um, yeah. So this is my second scope. As you can tell, I'm still getting a little used to it, so I'm still kind of nervous about doing the scope, but I just want to jump right on in. So today I'm going to be talking about unforgiveness and how unforgiveness can really impact your life. And so I just want to let you know that I was really motivated to do this scope after the first one, and really the first scope was very liberating to me. And the reason being is that I realized that I have been holding on to unforgiveness, and really this new journey with FNPhenomenal is really helping me to start to manage through some of the feelings, some of the issues that I have been having and holding on to myself. So without further ado, I just want to jump on in. And so it's just interesting because up until this last scope, I had just been wondering like if God had even picked the right person, because the more I heard from him and the more he was leading me in this direction, I was like, Lord, not me. Like, this is not my battle. This is not my journey. I can't do this. But you don't understand how this last scope made me feel liberated. Like, my coach and my friend asked me, she said, how did you feel after the last scope? I'm like, I finally feel free. Oh my God, I finally feel free. And I have a couple of notes because I wanted to make sure I didn't get on like an emotional rant. So I just wanted to keep myself grounded. But the reason why I came to this process is I realized that I was starting to feel anger. I was starting to feel bitterness. It was so funny. Like, if a guy tried to holler at me, I would try and run away. Oh yes, Dorothea. Yes, freedom is priceless. You are absolutely right. And so I realized that like people would if somebody tried to holler at me, like I would turn around and literally walk in the other direction because I'm just like, no, I can't do this again, right? And so I would be in church, and if the pastor said something about unforgiveness, I would be like, no, you don't understand what this person did to me. It's no way that I can learn how to forgive. I was telling people, I'm like, I don't even want to date again until my twins turn 18. I just can't do this. And I remember one day going to church, and then they did intercessory prayer, and one of the deacons that I was praying with, he started to pray about the father of my children, and I felt myself rolling my eyes in prayer. And I'm like, no, you can't be like this. This is not right. You shouldn't act like this. Why are you rolling your eyes? And when he got done, I tried to justify to him why he should not say a prayer for the other parent. And I'm like, this is not me. This is not the spirit that I have. So why would I let somebody else control how I start to feel and about other people? Like, it just doesn't make sense. And so in the same sermon, pastor was saying that we as Christians, we give things to God, right? But then there's a certain part of us, within us, this lockbox of emotions that we want to manage ourselves. And I realized that I was holding on to unforgiveness because I was allowing that lockbox of emotions, because I thought that I can manage that better. But the more I started to think about it, and I was reading this book, Believing Bigger by Dr. Shantae Bishop, and one of the chapters that she has in the book is learning how to forgive. And so one of the things that I realized is that I wasn't holding on to unforgiveness for the other person. That was part of it. But I was also holding on to unforgiveness for myself, because I was upset and I was angry at myself because of the fact that I allowed this other person to impact how I felt about myself, if that makes sense. When this other person left, he tried to destroy my self-confidence, destroy my self-worth, impact how I felt about myself. He tried to impact my self-confidence, and to the point where I started to believe that I was this horrible person and that I couldn't help other people. I stopped working because I believed that. Because, I work with women, so I thought that I wasn't the right person to help these women to be able to transform their finances. So I stopped working because I just couldn't trust that I wouldn't hurt somebody, because that's what he tried to make me believe. And so the unforgiveness that I felt was the fact that I allowed him to impact how I felt about myself. So that was a part of it. And I was upset that I allowed him to get close enough to hurt me, because sometimes I try and keep people and things at an arm's length distance because I don't want to be hurt. So I was upset at myself for letting this person in close enough where they could hurt me. And so I also felt a lot of guilt and a lot of hurt because he tried to convince me to terminate my pregnancy, and he did such a number on me emotionally that I really started to consider it. I really started to believe that maybe this was the only way, and that I wouldn't be able to be a good mom to these twins. I started to believe that if I kept these twins, that I would be hurting him. And so he almost got me to the point where I decided to go through with it, but thank the Lord that I did not. And so I held on to a lot of guilt for that thought even crossing my mind. When I look at my twins and I just feel how filled with love I am for them, I just feel a lot of hurt feelings and guilt. So that was something that I couldn't forgive myself for, the fact that it had even crossed my mind. And so what I realized is that in the process, and before I hit that point, one thing I wanted to touch on, especially for the single moms out there with respect to forgiveness, one thing that I thought is that I didn't have good judgment. I felt that because I let this person get close to me, it meant that I lacked good judgment and that I couldn't tell the difference between who was good for me and who wasn't good for me. And so I held on to a lot of anger at myself because I said, you don't even have good judgment. But what I realized in this process, as I started to go through the process, as I started to go through the self-work, it wasn't that I had bad judgment. It was that I didn't look at the signs. I didn't look at the red flags. I didn't look to see how this person treated other people. And I didn't, when I saw how he treated other people, I didn't believe that he could treat me in the same fashion. So I held on to a lot of unforgiveness to myself because I'm like, you didn't even pay attention to the signs. And so one of the things that I had to do was to do a lot of the self-work to make sure I understood how not to put myself in that position again. But at the end of the day, people treat you the way you allow them to be treated. And the other thing is that I think it was Eleanor Roosevelt said, people cannot make you feel inferior without your consent. And so once I started to realize that, I started to think, okay, Aisha, you can only control how you feel about yourself. So start on the path of forgiveness to forgive yourself for allowing someone else to control your thoughts, control your emotions, control how you felt about yourself, control your self-confidence, because you should have never given somebody that type of power over you. What the Lord always says, the Lord wants to be first. And I realized that I put a false idol up in my life, and I care more about pleasing that false idol than I pleased about the Lord. So the Lord removed that person from my life and from my twins' life, which is perfect, right? That's just fine. But what I had to do was go through that work to make sure that I understood what happened, and I understood what went wrong, and to be able to forgive myself for the things that I could have controlled, for the things that I should have been able to recognize, but I didn't. I had to forgive myself for putting that person ahead of God, and I had to finally forgive myself for allowing him to try and for giving him the power to be able to even allow me to be able to think that for allowing him to have the power to be able to dictate my thoughts, my feelings, and almost my actions, just to say it that way. But one thing that I realized in this whole process And I realized this just through talking to a friend of mine when I finally had to confront how I felt. And I started to say things like, I hate him, I hate him, I hate him. But I realized that that hatred wasn't really towards him. It was the fact that I allowed a lot of these feelings of unforgiveness to be bottled up inside of me. And so once I was open up that bottle to let those feelings go, I put myself on that path to healing, to be able to find forgiveness for him. I'm still working on that, I promise, but to more in a sense to find forgiveness for myself, because Colin Powell even said that holding on to hatred, holding on to unforgiveness is like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die. And in that sense, I started to look for things that I was grateful for. And some of the things that I was grateful for was the fact, number one, is that in this process, God was able to just show how amazing he is. And I was able to really put my full faith and reliance on God. Number two, my twins, like I have my twins, despite this failed relationship, despite everything, like I have my twins, and for that I am so eternally grateful. And number three, I found forgiveness. I'm grateful because I realized how much strength that I have through God. If I didn't go through this whole journey, I would not have realized how strong I was and how good God is. And the fourth thing that I am grateful for is the fact that he left, because in his absence, he has been such a blessing, because my kids only know love. They are surrounded by so much love. And I was reading the book, Believing Bigger by Dr. Shantae Bishop. And the chapter that I just read today was talking about, in the Bible, about pruning of trees, and how and even if you think about pruning of trees, pruning of flowers, you have to eliminate the dead stuff. You have to prune the dead stuff away, because if you don't prune the dead stuff away, if you don't prune the weeds, if you don't prune the branches, then the dead branches will eventually kill the living organism. And so the Lord has to do that in our lives too. He has to prune the dead things from our lives. He has to prune the dead trees, the dead branches, the people who are dragging us down, the people who can't, who are not going to be able to contribute to our lives the way we need them to contribute to our lives. And so he prunes all of that away so that we can become the people who we are called to be. And so when you hold on to people and things that are no longer supposed to be in your life, you yourself are consumed. You are suffocated. The death of your spirit happens. And so you have to be okay with people walking out and with people leaving you. And this is a whole nother scope. I'm going to do a whole nother scope on when somebody leaves, let them. My friend AJ Williams of the Single Black Chick gave me the best advice ever, and that's going to be a whole nother scope. But I say this to say, let it go. The absence is a blessing. Find gratitude in the absence, because if you think about it, you will be a better person. And I think about it all the time. He did what I couldn't do. He left. And that is okay. And because of it, I'm a better person. I'm a better mom. I've had so many amazing things happen to me. God has been able to just show me how glorious he is in it. So why would I hold on to unforgiveness when so many amazing things have happened because of all of this stuff? Why am I holding on to anger? None of us deserve forgiveness. We are all sinners, but yet Jesus died on the cross so that we could live. So none of us should ever be holding on to unforgiveness at all, because if we're Christians, we have to be more like God, and we have to We have to forgive. We just have to. And so I'm not going to say forgiveness happens overnight. Forgiveness is definitely a journey. It's definitely a journey. If I'm totally honest, I still can't pray for him. I'm working on it. I promise you guys, I'm working on it. But what I am committed to doing is really forgiving myself, moving on, becoming the best person that I can be, and just letting go of the anger, letting go of the blame, letting go of the bitterness. Because if I don't, the only person that it will help, that it will hurt, is me. And so what I know that in doing this work and in going on this journey, I will eventually be able to pray for him. But at the end of the day, I just want to be happy. And I know that the only way for me to be happy, and the only way for me to be the mom and the woman of God that I'm called to be, is if I'm able to find forgiveness. And so how do you do that? Just stay in constant prayer and in communication with God. Just ask God to just relieve your heart, to lift your heart, and allow you to find forgiveness and embrace God's journey for your life. Because if you're focused on being the person that God has called you to be, the forgiveness will follow, the happiness will follow, and the joy will follow as well. And so, moms, what I want to do as well, later on in the scope, I know I mentioned before about how I say that I don't want to date until my twins are 18. They're 6 months. They're not 6 months yet, but they're getting close to 6 months. So that's a long time. So for my moms who have been, who have dated, what I want to do is join me over at Phenomenal Moms, the Phenomenal Moms Facebook group. So just look it up, the word Phenomenal Moms, and just drop me a line and let me know if you are interested in really joining me on a blab, and so that way we can talk to the moms about different things that they can do if they're looking at re-entering the dating field. I would love to have some of you guys who've been able to do this successfully join me on over at Phenomenal Moms, and let me know if you're interested in joining me on that dating blab. It's so awesome. Single moms, we have an amazing support community. What we're going to be doing is encouraging each other, providing support, just a place, a safe space of community, and just love, talking about parent tips, financial management for the single mom, all things that you need to be able to be just a phenomenal mom, phenomenal single mom, phenomenal woman. So join me over at Phenomenal Moms Facebook group. And so thank you again for joining me on this scope. And I'm just so grateful to you. Hi, a Cafe Beauty. Hi, how is it going? Thank you for joining us. And so I'm just really grateful that you have joined me here on this scope. And so I have some amazing stuff, some amazing topics that I'm just really excited just to bring to you. So I look forward to you next time. So don't forget. Oh, thank you for all the hearts. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So just join me over at phenomenalmoms.com, not phenomenalmoms.com, Phenomenal Moms Facebook group. And I forgot to introduce myself. I told you guys I'm new to this Periscope thing, so please forgive me. Forgiveness. We're talking about forgiveness. But anyway, I'm Aisha Taylor, founder of FNPhenomenal, and you can join me over at FNPhenomenal.com. I'm also on Instagram, Facebook, Pinterest, and Twitter at FNPhenomenal. So that's F as in Frank, N as in Nancy, and the word phenomenal, PHENOMENAL. So I look forward to connecting with you. Thanks for joining. Bye.